All right. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Thank you so very much for coming today. I know it's really chilling cold. We really appreciate all of you for making it in here. We have a lot of different business owners. I hope you had some time to chat with your fellow colleague or business owner to find out what they do, get their business card, get to know each other better. It's more of networking and learning from each other, right? So if we can have an event that brings people together and learn from each other, that's more awesome. So find some time after this to speak to the person sitting next to you. If you're looking for an accountant, we have an accountant in the room. We have 2 lawyers in the room. We have mortgage broker in the room, real estate agent in the room. We have IT person here. We have a pastor here. We have a financial advisor here. We have Simba here. Cleaning company. You need your offices clean, right? So you want to work in a clean space, but he's more of post construction. And then we have a nursing agency here. So if you have a nurse or a healthcare aide or a healthcare profession looking to get hired, you have that profession here. And then I think you're doing mechanics, right?
No, I stopped. I'm selling junk removal company.
Okay, movers. See, if you want to move your office, you have someone here to help you. So you'll have that time to interact. All of you know me. My name is Esther Sunday. I'm a passionate financial educator. I really thrive in helping people understand their wealth process. So the objective of this meeting is to focus on businesses and help us understand the process of creating wealth, growing wealth, preserving wealth, and transitioning wealth. That is very, very critical. But the aspect of today's topics will be basically how you can use your group benefits, how you can understand it's called my health spending account. You learn a little bit about that because I know most people are scared or are just pissed off with individual health insurance because it increases premium every month. How about if you can put money in your spending health account and you just do your dental if that's your passion, your massage and all that stuff, so you don't have to pay for things that you don't need. So that's one thing we are going to focus on. And then the second half of it, we are going to be talking about a corporately owned life insurance. Because think about it this way: business has 3 phases. You have building phase, where you're worried about liabilities, right? And then you have that place where you feel comfortable. You want to think about, if something happens, the key person, how do I transition my business? And then, of course, the final stage is the transition. How do you transfer that? So we want to make sure that the hard work you guys do can be retained within your businesses. Your families, your spouses, your business partners can be able to handle that in case of anything happening. And then the last aspect of it is, how can you utilize the living benefits? We talk about critical illness shared aspect of it. So you have your corporation or your business paying into an account where you can have some benefits come to you, and by the end of the day you can claim that money into your business account, right? So you can be having peace of mind. If I have a critical illness or I have a disability, I can still pay my employees. Paydays was yesterday. Business people scratch their days. Where do I get the money to pay people, right? So you want to make sure that you have that secured, and think about when you're not able to perform what you're performing, but the employees still need to be paid. That is a very painful process. So we are going to break that to us today. On your table, you have some brochures. So as Chris goes through the presentation, you will tick which areas you want us to discuss more in one-on-one basis. The presentation is going to be less than an hour. If it's fast, you stop and ask questions. And Chris is my mentor, and he has been in this business for a long period of time. He has a lot of experience, and over 4 decades, I'll say 4 decades. He say, I don't want to look old, but I have a lot of wisdom. So he specialized a lot in health and group and all that stuff, and we're just gonna sit back and learn from him. I'll be coming in back and forth. So please help me welcome Chris Cuban on stage. And before he comes, I just want to send my apologies from Manulife. Our lady Tanis, who didn't make it today, she had a dental surgery yesterday, which made her, it didn't go, it made her face swollen, and she wouldn't be here. But just know that everything we are doing today is courtesy Manulife. Manulife plays a big role in our business, and we just want to say thank you for them for supporting us. So welcome, Chris.
I said to a few people when there's a few people in the room, I think we all deserve an award just for showing up today. So I'm really happy that the room is full, because it is not nice outside. This is one of the worst mornings. I went to leave this morning, and my dog is used to having a walk at 6:30 in the morning, and I had to politely describe to him, that is not happening, buddy. That is no, we are not going for a walk this morning. So my name is Chris Cuban. I'm with Financial Horizon. So we actually support Esther in her business. Esther is one of our many advisors. So she has a truly independent business. And this is why I like dealing with advisors that work in her capacity, because she works 100% for you. I am not her boss. I am not anything other than support for her and her business. And she can sell any type of product with any carrier that she wants. So if there's something that you need from Manulife or Sun Life or Blue Cross or Equitable Life, all the different products, she has those available. She's not tied to one product or one provider. She is entirely independent and here to help you. So as she said, we're going to go through a whole bunch of topics. It's not a big room, so I can talk way too fast and I can get way too into this kind of stuff. So if you've got questions, let me know. I'm not afraid to be hit by a pen. Like if I'm talking too fast, you need to slow me down, Chris. Hey, just stop me. I love talking about this kind of stuff. And the more questions you have, the better. So obviously the focus today was on being your own boss. Each of you in some capacity are your own boss. And that is a wonderful thing. You probably all got into it for different reasons, whether it was you had this fantasy that you were going to get to relax. I know you all don't do that. Maybe you'd get to travel. Yeah, you probably don't do that. Maybe that you'd be rich and famous. You're probably not that either. The main thing is that it is not that easy. The reality is being a business owner is tough. Sometimes it's lonely, but it's worth it because you're creating something for yourself and you get to drive your own destiny. So what we want to do is be able to protect that. How do we work within the businesses that you have and make sure that that business is still there if something happens? There's lots of things that happen. So we're protecting what you're built. That's what the majority of today is talking about. Esther also talked about transfer of wealth. So that can be part of these products that once you've got a bundle of cash that you've built up within your company, maybe you've built a sustainable asset. Well, part of that is, okay, well, now I don't want to pull it all out of my company and pay a bunch of tax. So how do we do this the most effectively so that we can transfer some of the wealth out in an effective way to you or down the road to your family members? So we're going to go through a whole bunch of things because there are a ton of tools available. The main thing is that Esther's the key person here. I'm just sharing some of the ideas. Esther's the one that puts all of these in place for you. So that's why it's a wonderful team that we got going. So where do we start? Well, I figured I'd just sort of start with the basics on what are the basic things that everyone needs. Not necessarily just a business owner, but what does everyone need? Well, if you're not an employee of someone, how do you get your dental and medical covered? So you can have individual health and dental plans. You've probably seen those from Blue Cross or Manulife. They do a whole bunch of commercials for it. Green Shield does it. And this is a simple way, just as an individual, you can buy insurance and get that coverage. So if you need an ambulance, you need physiotherapy, you need to go to the dentist, you can buy that type of coverage. The biggest one that I notice that business owners forget to do is travel insurance. And this is a catastrophic thing. Luckily, it doesn't happen every day, but I've been through enough claims in my career that if you're traveling somewhere, even something as simple as going to Grand Forks, or you go into Ontario, into Kenora, what we don't realize is the coverage that we have from the provincial health is only for Manitoba. So if you go into the States, you would still be covered for what Manitoba would cost. Well, in Manitoba, a hospital bed is about $150 a day. In the US, it can be $1,500 a day. Guess what? You pay the difference. So the travel insurance is very important to have with you. Same thing, actually, people don't realize if you go to Ontario, a hospital bed is $200 a day, $150 a day in Manitoba. So if you get sick in Ontario, you pay the difference. So travel insurance is important wherever you go. And it's just something that is usually part of the health and dental plans. And it's something that very simple to buy. Esther has just online tools that she can send you, and you can pick any plan, and it's as little as like $3 a day. So it's not expensive. It's just important to have. Super visa or student visa plans. So if you have relatives coming from other countries and they're coming to visit, again, something that is very important to have, because when they're visiting, they don't have insurance here. If you have any relatives that have come here with the super visa actually has a requirement that you have to buy insurance to show that if something happened to you while you were here, that you have the insurance to cover it. You're not going to be a burden of the government here. So those are things that, again, Esther has access to those. She can recommend a whole pile of different options, and just know that she has access to that kind of thing when you need it. The health spending account, this is the one that Esther kind of touched on, because a lot of people say, I don't like having that individual health and dental plan because it's very expensive. And what if I'm not using it? Like, I'm quite a healthy person. I don't need to get a ton of prescriptions. I don't need to go to the dentist all the time. So why am I paying $200 a month to have something I'm not really using? So in a wonderful world, you would have your expenses and you would put them through your company. Just like most things, we want write-offs within the company. So that would be in a wonderful world. You would be able to just take that business expense and you'd hand it to your company, and that would be a write-off, just like parking and everything else. The federal government says, no, we can't do that. So there's an interesting little product called a health spending account. We tend to use my HSA, but what they've done is they say, if you take that expense and you give it to my HSA, they'll bill your company for that expense. So if you take an $100 expense, you say, send it to my HSA, they send a bill to your company for $100 plus 10% admin fee. So they send your company a bill for $110. That then they've paid the $110, and my HSA pays you the $100 back. You've taken an expense and you've run it through your company. So you still get to have the advantage of using this through a company. Now, when I look at this, it's basically the fundamental of money laundering, but this is legal. That's the cool part. This is actually legal. So it's something that pretty much every business owner that I meet, I always say you should have one of these, because it costs nothing to set up. You don't have to use it, but when you do go to use it, it's there. So it doesn't have your typical limits, like with massage therapy or glasses or orthodontics for the kids. It's just there that when you have these expenses, you can use them. Did you have a question?
Yeah, I was kind of lost a little bit. You said you run your expense through HSA and then they charge you 10%, and then what goes on from there? So
what happens is you take that expense. So for $100, you send it over to my HSA. My HSA creates a bill for $110 because 10% admin fee. Your company pays that to my HSA. So they've been made back. They make their $10, and then they send you a check for $100 personally. So effectively, you've taken the money from your company and you've paid it to yourself. It's just the only legal way. So it's still a cost to the company,
Man, now I'm listening.
right? So it looks funny. It honestly, it does. It looks like money laundering. Like, why would we do this? Why would we give someone $10 to do this, to get my money back? The reality is that then your company paid for it. It's not after-tax dollars for you, because you would have had to earn $170 to use that $100 expense. After taxes, you'd only have $100. So this is super effective way to do it. Yep.
So the money sent to you is not taxed.
Right. It is non-taxable money.
100%.
100%. So that $100 bill, now you get the $100 back. You've got your money back. Yep.
But do they have like annual fee? I used to have that account, this similar account with some firm in Calgary.
Yes.
And they would then switch, a sole practitioner couldn't do it, only corporations couldn't do it. This one, what's up with this?
This is, there is no annual fee. That's why I like it, because it if you don't use it, it doesn't cost you anything. So set it up, and if you use it at some point, great. You only use it for the $10 admin fee. And the $10 admin fee has a cap per claim. So it's $50 per claim. So again, it doesn't have a huge downside to you. And it is available to sole proprietors or incorporated people. The trick is that there are limits based on CRA, based on the level of corporation you have. So if you're fully incorporated, it doesn't have a limit. They just want to see that it's not seen as a shareholder benefit. So again, these are things that because each corporation is set up differently, and it's whether you have a single partner or multiple partners. What we see this being used for is if you have, say you have 10 staff and you have a regular group plan. Well, your regular group plan has limits. So maybe your vision care is $300, but you go out and you have a great pair of glasses, so they're probably not $300. So if they're $700 pair of glasses, then you just take your $400, and as the business owner, you can run it through this. So it's ways to look after yourself more than just your staff. You can top up things. So there's lots of flexibility for this. The only rules in this is really, is it an item that can be written off with CRA as a healthcare expense? Which then that just basically means the sky's the limit. You can use physiotherapy, massage therapy, glasses, orthodontics, some cosmetic surgery can be included in that. Yep.
Okay, is it only for the business owner or like the kid? Let's say I have my kid who has the.
Yep, it would be for your whole family. Yes. Yep. So, and again, that's the advantage. It's something that looks after your whole family, and it helps it as a business expense.
And if I started already the procedure with my son's thing, and they have monthly payments like $400 a month, and I sign up for that.
Yep.
And I going forward.
Going forward, yeah, it's all based on the date of the receipt. So if we set you up today, your next payment you can put through it.
I don't even get any receipt. They just take the
Sorry?
money from Visa or something.
Yes, and this is something that some people will use as their starter plan instead of getting a full benefits plan. They'll just say, you know what, we're going to set a limit. We're going to give every staff member $500. That we're going to just give them a $500 limit. The whole process is set up as an app. So there's actually an app on the phone that they take a picture of the receipt. They send their receipt to the MyHSA. MyHSA bills your company, and the employee gets their money back. So it's a way of, instead of saying, well, you're going to have this for dental, and you're going to have this for medical, and you're going to have this and this and this, it's something that you can use very flexibly. And the other thing is with, if you've got part-time staff. So part-time staff, group benefits plans don't usually like part-time staff. So, but you might want to give them something because you want to keep them around. And so you give the group benefits plan to the full-time staff, or maybe you give full-time staff this, but you give them $1,500 a year to use. And part-time staff, you say it's only $500. So you can really, really be flexible with how this is set up. The only rule is that you can't pick on individual people. So if I'm saying it's managers get $100 or $500 and staff get $250, I can't say Esther gets this versus Malofo gets that. I have to do it by the references class. You have to set up a category for that type of person. So very, very useful tool when it comes to business owners, because you're always looking at flexibility, and why pay premiums if you don't know whether you're going to use it? This is literally only pay while you go.
So I'll take an example for that. I had my personal health insurance, and every year it's 10% increment. So you realize that you're only using vision and dental, right? And then you have to pay the difference. Some massage, physiotherapy, chiropractic, maybe that year you didn't use it, but you paid for it. So then my HSA comes in for those people who are concerned. Oh, I just need more of dental, more of this, then you can control that. So that's why we're giving you guys options in case you want to have something like that. You can go for these options.
Yeah.
And we can talk about that one-on-one
Yeah.
later on for more information. And this, in terms of accounting, whether it's claim or not, I think Yusuf is in the room. He's an accountant, so you can consult with him, about that. He can guide you or whether things are tax deductible or not.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the next level, as your business maybe gets bigger or more mature, you might want to get into group benefits. So group benefits, and this is just more information than it is anything else, is typically it starts with 2 to 3 employees. Some people think, oh, I need to have 10 employees. No, you can have as little as 2 employees. Depending on the company, they start at 2 to 3. So we can start benefits. Typically, they're going to have some life insurance, some disability in there. And then you can have medical and dental, and you can design the different levels that you want. And you can put savings plans in there. And a savings plan can be voluntary for your staff, or maybe you want to add money in. So you want to do a matching program. So these are things that more and more employees are looking at the employer as, how are you going to attract me, and how are you going to retain me for long term? And a lot of people that are applying, they're saying, okay, do you have a benefits plan? The interesting part is no one asks, can I see the booklet? Can I see what you have for coverage? So you don't have to have the best. You don't have to have an amazing plan. Sometimes it's just about having something to start with. And the HSA we just talked about, that's a great start. Do you have a benefits plan? Yes, I do. We have a health spending account. Oh, okay. What does that mean? Well, I'm going to give you some money and you can spend it however you want towards any of your expenses. Cool. Life insurance, disability. These are ones that as individuals, a lot of employees especially, we find that they don't look after themselves. They don't have enough life insurance. Almost nobody has disability insurance in the country at this point. So employers will ask me, well, why would I want to pay for that? Why would I want to set that up? And one of the answers is, okay, so Esther's been working for me for 20 years. She gets disabled. And she says, you know what, I'm having trouble paying my bills. Can I come back to work? Well, no, you're disabled. I can't hold the job for you if you're disabled. Yeah, but I've been working for you for 20 years and I'm struggling to pay the bills. So you didn't buy any disability insurance? No, I never thought of it. So these are situations that come up, no different than we've seen it before, where an employee's been working for 20 years. They pass away. The family is now in trouble because they didn't buy a life insurance. They didn't have a safety net set up. So how are they paying for the funeral? How are they paying for those final expenses? And we see it more often than you would think. The employer just cuts a check and says, you know what, I really was glad that Esther was around for so long and she was an amazing employee and I want to help out. So having a benefits plan that sort of automatically has something built in gives your staff that safety net, gives you the comfort that even if they haven't done enough planning and they don't have a full disability plan and they don't have full life insurance, that you've got something to help the family in their time of difficulty. So that's one of the things that is built in. Usually the cost split is 50-50. So that's one of the other advantages, that it's not your cost altogether. It's usually a cost share. And a lot of employers will say, well, yeah, that sounds really, really expensive. But if you break it down and you say, okay, the cost is 50-50 split. And then if we break it down further, it's not just a monthly cost. We can break it down per hour. So I do this quite often where I'll run the expense and someone will see that, oh, my monthly expense is $2,000. Wow. But if you break it down per employee and then you break it down per hour, well, it's really only around 50 cents an hour. And what would you rather do? Give a staff member coming January a raise for 50 cents? And they go, 50 cents, really? With right now, with all the expenses, you're giving me a 50-cent raise, you cheap bugger. Or give them a benefits plan that they look at and go, wow, a benefits, like I can get this covered and my family's going to be looked after. And there's a whole bunch of pieces. The value of a benefits plan is seen as much more to an employee than giving them 50 cents an hour. Now, obviously, we're not going to tell them that it's 50 cents an hour. We're going to boost up the idea that, look, your employer's awesome. They're giving you a whole benefits plan. This is a big deal. Only significant companies typically look at benefits plans. So if you're having trouble attracting people because they look at it as, well, maybe it's a business that, you're still new. I don't know if I want to join a company that's brand new. Getting a benefits plan makes you a little more significant that way. Now, getting back to protecting your business, one of the things that is very important is obviously looking after you. Have we talked about life insurance for you? Have we talked about critical illness insurance for you? So there's things that we're going to talk about the structure of them that can actually be very specific to business. But the reality is, as a business owner, you're just like anyone else in the world. You should be making sure that you have life insurance that's going to look after your family. You should be making sure that if you got disabled, how would you continue on? Because in some cases, your business wouldn't survive without you. I would say that's the majority of us are set up that way, that if we got disabled permanently and we could never work again, the business is gone. There's really nothing left there. So we should make sure that those items are looked after. The last one that we'll talk about a little bit more is critical illness. And this is one it's quite important to me because I've actually been through it with my wife's husband. That's me. My wife's work husband. We joke about it all the time. She's worked for the same doctor for 35 years. So she's got a work husband and she has a house husband. So we do joke about this. She's been with him longer. That's weird. But critical illness, for those of you that don't know, critical illness takes 25, 26 conditions and says, if you get one of those major conditions and you survive that, then we're going to pay you out a lump sum of money. That's the simplicity of it. So the interesting thing of being in Canada, which is awesome, is not a lot of us die from cancer, heart attack, and all the major things. We don't necessarily die if we get those. We actually live, but what happens? We have to take time off. We have to be in hospital for a long time. We have to have a lot of medical bills that we don't expect. Sometimes those are prescriptions, which we can look after in other parts, but some of them are just simple things like, okay, well, I'm going to have to pay for parking at HSC for the next 6 months. And that's $14 a day. Those bills start to add up. And then if you want to try different medicines and if you want to go somewhere and you want to get different treatment, all these bills add up. So what my wife's doctor did was he bought a large policy for himself. So he bought what was called business continuation insurance. So he got sick with cancer, had to be off work for 9 months. So under normal conditions, a doctor is going to close down the office and he's going to have to let all the staff go and tell patients, you're going to have to go somewhere else. And he's going to have to divert that. If he survives, he's going to have to come back into the business, rehire staff, and start building clients in again, because it's all a referral business in physician world. So what happened was he was actually given this large lump sum of money that allowed him to step out of the business, and he had this large pocket of money that kept the staff on. So he was able to keep the staff on. He hired a temporary doctor to come in, look after the patients. So at the end of 9 months, he stepped back in, his same staff were there, his patients were there. Everything was still great for him. Now, why is that important to me? Is because my wife didn't have to get laid off. My wife didn't have to find another job. She got to work in the same spot. And for 9 months, she didn't have to worry about having a job. So as much as the product was seen as it was for him, I saw the value in it, even just second spectator going, wow, someone helped him plan right, because his business completely continued. And that happened at about, I think my wife had been with him for 15 years, and she's been with him another 20 years because she is extremely loyal that he kept her even when he was sick, and she's been with him through thick and thin. So these are things that we don't necessarily buy the insurance just for that, but it can come in and it can look after a lot of things and buy you a lot of time. He looks at it as something that he wishes he could buy again. Obviously, he's had cancer, so he can't buy one again. So, but he's someone that'll jump up and down and say everyone should have this. So if you're more than just an individual, obviously, if you're just an individual business owner, that's one situation. What would happen if you weren't able to work tomorrow? So that's where the life insurance, disability insurance, critical illness, that can look after it. But it's also something that I've owned small businesses before, and I don't think I ever thought of, okay, so if I died tomorrow, what happens to my business? You don't think of that. You're just, as business owners especially, you're a very special breed that, I mean, I could chop one of your arms off and you guys would probably keep going. That's how dedicated you are. It's kind of a neat thing that you're very, very dedicated to your business. It is part of you. So, but the question becomes, okay, well, what if you couldn't come back to work? What if you couldn't come back to work? What if you were disabled? What would happen to your business? And that's another set of plans, like having business continuation. Who would you sell it to? Who would step in? Who would look after the business? Those are things that are part of it. But if you have a partner, most people look at it as, well, my partner would take over. Okay, well, how does that happen? If a partner's there, you have what's called a buy-sell agreement. So for those, I'm just going to go through this stuff really quickly because it fits into the process of how do these pieces all come together. So a buy-sell agreement, basically it says that you've got owner one and owner two. They agree that if something happened, the other person would buy them out. Makes it nice and simple. Because in reality, if you don't do that, if I died, my wife gets the company and my partner is now working with my wife. And wonderful lady, but she has no idea about insurance and she wouldn't be the person that my partner would want to be with. So you want to have something that's structured that says, here's what's going to happen. It's going to be an automatic. But if you think of it as, okay, the business has been going on for a while, what's the business worth? Well, it's worth $2 million. Okay, so if something happened, the business owner has to buy my wife out of $1 million. Well, where's he going to get that money? the business, usually you don't just have $1 million sitting around going, yeah, here you go. I'm just going to cut you a check and away you go. So the simplest way to do this is to buy an insurance policy. The insurance policy, owner B buys the policy on owner A. Owner A buys it on B. If something happens, owner A, the policy pays out that $1 million. It goes into the company. They pay that to owner B as the person that had bought the policy. Now they automatically have $1 million. Pay them for their shares. It's done. So that's the simplest way because it's pennies on the dollar. A term 10 policy on a 40-year-old for $1 million can be $300 a month. So it's way easier to buy that when maybe the business is a little bit lean and you don't have a ton of money sitting around. Make sure you have something like that in place so that there's no difficulty when things happen. It's just, okay, we planned for this. We've got the buy-sell agreement. Here's what's going to happen. The insurance is going to come in, and the business owner who still survives gets to look after things. And the family gets to benefit from the value of the company. So nice and simple that way. The other part, actually, I didn't have a slide for it. I forgot this, is key person insurance. So let's say it's just you in the business, but you've got someone that is absolutely your right hand. You've got someone that, you look after the upper scale stuff, but you've got someone that, trying to think of someone that looks after all your contracts, is the general that looks after every client and goes to every job site and looks after everything. Well, that person, what would happen if that person passed away or got critical illness or got disability? That is seen as it would be a key person. So your business would seriously suffer if that person was to pass away. So we're not talking about a business owner anymore, but we are talking about someone that is very, very important to the business. So we can put insurance on that person to look after what would happen to the business if we lost this key person. So example, you buy a policy for, typically they're around $500,000, and your key person passes away. Well, first thing that happens is you're going to need extra staff really fast to look after that person or after that job. And it's if they were doing their job that well, you probably need 2 or 3 people. So you might have to hire 3 people to replace that one person for that short-term period until you can find another perfect person. So that type of key insurance, a ton of businesses, especially the large corporate ones, they do that on purpose because they know that the business effectively is going to be screwed if that person is gone. So vice presidents, large companies that have executive boards, they'll put certain amounts of insurance on those people that they know if something happened, they would have a pocket of money and they would be able to look after hiring, whether it's a headhunter or a job agency, and they would go out and pay for that, but they would have enough cash to hire the extra people to look after that position. So very important piece if you've got either yourself, because you're obviously a key person for the company, or someone that is within the company that you want to really make sure that that value is protected. Shared ownership CI. So this is kind of a different one. We talked about CI and why that's important, because if something happens to you, it gives you that pocket of cash. You can use it to do whatever you need, whether it's going to be pay off bills, hire someone, or just pay your staff while you're away, things like that can happen. There's a different way to pay for it, though, that has become quite interesting for business owners, and it's really only for business owners. So all of you understand that if you earn money, it sits in your company, and the only way you can get that out is by paying tax. It's either income or dividend or there's a bunch of different ways to get it out, but at the end of the day, you have to pay tax to get that out of your company. That's one of the biggest annoyances of being a business owner. Great, I earned all this money, but I got to pay tax to get it out. So what we find is over time, business owners tend to leave as much as they can in their company because that's the cheapest place to leave it, is leave it in your company. So this is a way to pay for that critical illness, but also a way that we end up getting money out of the company without paying taxes. So what the premise of it is shared ownership CI. This one is very complicated from this standpoint, but basically what we say is we've got the company. The company says, for the business owner, we're going to buy a critical illness policy. So they pay for that. But there's a feature within critical illness that says, but what if I don't get sick? What if I pay for this policy and nothing happens? Well, there's what's called return of premium. So what you can do as an individual is you can buy the return of premium and you can have that portion of the policy. So the company is paying the big ticket. They're paying for that. And you are paying for the return of premium. So the cool part with this is a zero loss situation. Because if we have where if at the end of it, initially, if that policy is $500,000 and you get sick, the company gets that $500,000. So nobody plans for that, but that's why we bought the insurance in the first place. Second one, what if they die? What if the business owner dies? Well, that has also a return of premium on death, because the critical illness is only if you live from that specific instance. So the business gets $281,000 if Alex dies at age 65. The other cool part, and this is the one that we all ultimately hope for, is we don't use the insurance. The insurance has been bought, paid for, and over the years, never used. So at the end of that, because Alex has paid for this policy for the shared ownership portion, Alex gets $281,400 tax-free. And this is the cool part, is that effectively the business has put in $8,000 from corporate tax dollars that Alex is getting tax-free. So it's an interesting way to make sure that you've got the critical illness, but at the end of the day, you're also hoping that you're going to get tax-free out of it. Yep.
Is it only for corporations?
This one, yes. This has to be done with a corporate setup.
Okay, what about professional coverage? Like if there's a lawyer, for them as a sole practitioner,
Yep.
but there's lawyers for corporate.
Yes, that is still seen as corporate for taxation purposes. So we get this used a ton by doctors, lawyers, accounting
But
firms.
if you had a critical illness, that's it, you're done. But I had breast cancer in 2019.
A lot of it comes down to what was the severity and what was the outcome and how long has it been. But and it's been since 2018.
Yeah, my treatment finished in 2020.
Okay.
And also there's, maybe you can talk about it, like I worked through, I never stopped, and it was
Right.
COVID, it was breast cancer. And then I went after insurance to ask for the difference in loss of income, right?
Yes.
It was so difficult to deal with them. I said, you know what, I don't want to do it. And I just give up because they wanted to prove that I went through that. It's like,
Yeah.
we have everything from the doctors, but it was like so painful and abusive, I would say. From there, I just said, I'm not going to deal with it, and I never.
And that's where it's interesting, because for employees, I always say really the main thing they need is disability insurance, because they're just not going to show up to work. And not to be mean to employees. I mean, we have lots of people in society that employees are great and they're very valuable. But business owners are different. Business owners, like I say, I could chop your arm off and you'd keep working. You kept working. You just did. Yeah.
Chemos. I would come and I had clients.
So perfect example. And
Yeah.
I joke about the arm because this actually does resort back to a situation that actually happened up by Dauphin. We had some farmer clients, and the farmer had been working in the yard trying to clean out an auger. Put his arm in the auger, took his arm, and it dragged it in. The only thing left of his arm was the skin. So what does he do? He doesn't call the ambulance. He put his arm like this, duct taped himself, and drove himself to the hospital. So the hospital in Dauphin says, okay, we're going to need to get that surgically attached. So we'll get that arranged for you for Monday. You're going to have to drive into Winnipeg. What did he do? He drove back to his farm and put all the equipment away himself because he didn't have anybody to help him with it. Goes into the city, has the surgery. Wednesday morning, it's a surgically reattached arm that is in a huge sling and all this. He's out working on the farm. So we find out this probably 3 weeks later, and we said, what the hell happened? And he tells us all this, and we said, well, we're going to have to get your insurance involved. He goes, yeah, but disability insurance isn't going to pay for it because I never stopped working. You're absolutely right. But your policy has a dismemberment clause. So he had such a traumatic removal of his arm that the policy paid out the critical illness part, paid him $200,000. Now, being the humble man that he was, he's like, but I didn't lose my arm. I don't deserve the money. I'm like, dude, you use duct tape on your arm. If there's anyone that deserves $200,000, you do. Take the money. So it was actually quite the weird situation because did he ever not work? Not really. Probably 2 days. And he had surgery and he had all the issues of someone who had a traumatic event. And I'm sorry, but if it was an employee in a desk job, oh my goodness, they're not coming back for 6 months.
No.
So that person needs disability insurance. Someone who is not going to leave the job, disability insurance is really only there for the catastrophic things where you cannot come back to work. Whereas critical illness is meant for something happened and you survived. And that is the premise of it. That's why I say that business owners need critical illness more than anything else. Because that farmer, he always tells me, yeah, well, at least I made use of the money. What did you do? I bought another piece of equipment. Like, seriously, man. You could have taken like some time off, like book a vacation, something. No, I needed the piece of equipment. So my arm bought that. I'm like, oh, you guys are so difficult sometimes. So, and that's why I love dealing with business owners, because I know that, like, you guys are all laughing right now, but you guys would all do the same thing. I know you would. You're right. I know you would. I know. And this is why we get critical illness, because it does this kind of thing. And it's quite entertaining, because the way that I would talk to you guys about this is, oh, you'd never get a critical illness because you're all indestructible. I know as business owners, you don't think you'll ever get sick. Nothing's ever going to happen because you're going to just keep working. It's not going to happen. Die? That'll be later. Don't worry. I'm not going to die. So when we talk about it, it's only this part that we worry about, is how do we get money out of the company so that this is a tool that it's just in case, but the ultimate thing is we're making sure that some of that money comes out of your company tax-free.
So what's the minimum? We have quite big numbers there.
The minimum, it's based on the size of the policy. So typically we don't, I would say the typical policy is about $5,000 a year. That's what we would typically see. Obviously, the bigger you can do, the more advantageous. Yep.
Okay, so I'll just help with that. When it comes to critical illness, we always ask people, right? If something was to happen have to recover for
Yeah.
a year or 2 years or 3 years, how much of income would you like to replace? Okay, so if your company is worth 500,000 and you want to save to take care of your company for 3 years, then you'll be looking at 1.5 million of critical illness. If your company is only 50,000 and you want to protect it for 3 years, then it's 150,000. Again, we give those options, but people decide whatever makes sense. Because when it happens, people say, I wish I took more, right? So, yeah.
And how strict are they for your,
Medical,
yeah,
yeah, because it's a living benefit, you have to be healthy. That's why we say it's easier.
yeah, but like something that
Yeah.
I had 5, let's say, years ago, and now I'm okay, would they consider or they
Yes.
reject?
They would
We
consider
have some
because usually
companies-
it's usually 5 years after something major has happened that they're willing to reconsider. Because for any of you that have been through cancer, 5 years is sort of a magical, you get to ring the bell, that after 5 years you don't need to see the doctor every year anymore, because they've assumed you've lived the most, you've lived through the most dangerous part. So
So we have companies that take critical illness, non-medical. So we can have those cases.
Yeah.
Or regular companies that have that wait period, 5 years, 10 years, it depends on the severity of the situation.
perfect. The last one we're gonna talk about really is the corporately owned life insurance. And again, this is for business owners, and this is specifically for you because it has the advantages are really there for you. Life insurance of any kind is always an advantage because you're paying for life insurance that is very inexpensive based on the amount that is going to be paid out. So even as an individual, life insurance makes sense. For a business owner, the other advantage is that you can put the policy into the corporation and have the corporation pay for the insurance. So instead of it being your after-tax dollars, it's corporate tax dollars that are being used. So there's a big advantage to that. So if we look at how would you use company money, one of the things that gets asked all the time is, yeah, but what if I use the money? So if I've got $100,000 left in the company and it's just sitting there and I don't need it for anything right now, what if I invest the money? Well, the reality is that if you invest it, anything you invested in, there are no RRSPs for corporations. It's still going to be taxed as income within the corporation. They are going to pay tax. And then if you try and pull it out, it's going to be either capital gains or it's going to be taxed on death. So investing within your company is really difficult. So that's where a lot of companies, they just have money sitting there and they're using it as daily interest or small interest is being paid, because if you go and invest in the stock market with that money, it just comes out as a ton of tax. So a lot of business owners will look at it as, yeah, but anything that I earn then in there is going to be eventually, I'm going to have to pay 50% tax on it anyways. So why would I do that? Life insurance, though, if you're buying a life insurance policy, the policy is being paid for by corporate dollars. The advantage there is that when that gets paid out, it actually goes, the payment goes into the corporation. Now there's this funny little thing that's built in called a capital dividend account, that it takes things like life insurance when they come in, and it gives the ability to pay that out of the corporation without paying tax. So the corporation, let's say you bought a policy for $1 million on your own life. The corporation would get the $1 million. The $1 million comes out of the corporation to your family as a corporate dividend, or sorry, a capital dividend, and it gets the $1 million tax-free. So the advantage being that we didn't have to hold it personally to still get it tax-free. We got the company to pay for that. So that is a big advantage. And within life insurance, there's also, there's a whole bunch of terms for it, but let's call it supersized life insurance. So life insurance that has cash values. So you can overpay for an insurance policy, and the investments within the policy grow similar to this. They can still have growth, but because it's within an insurance policy, it grows tax-free as well.
Is it like whole life? then?
Whole life, universal life. So they have a component that allows the corporation now to have an investment.
Another question. Sorry, I asked too many
No,
questions.
no, it's great.
So because I have so many policies, and when I was diagnosed, I thought, thank God I have policies, so I wouldn't worry about my kid because he was 9 at that time. Like I recommend everybody to get.
Yeah.
I'm not promoting anybody, but just from personal experience, right? So now, if I have insurance, even let's say I incorporate, can I switch my insurances to those or no?
You can move your insurance policy
Yeah.
that you have, you can move it into your corporation.
Okay.
So if you've got the personally
Yeah.
formed ones, you can move them in. There might be tax implications. Usually when you're moving it into a corporation, it's okay. It's when you're moving it out that is not recommended. So
Now, let's say I have like 5 different policies. I have and I decided, okay, I wasn't incorporated because for tax purposes I didn't need it.
right.
So now I'm on a different level and I want to incorporate my law practice, and then I say, okay, I have a insurance that I pay now $200 a month for $1 million whatever dollar,
Mhm.
and then I have whole life insurance I pay another $200. So I want to move all of those into my corporate.
Yep.
Yeah.
Will it be possible to do?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yep. So you can have those owned by the corporation and paid for by the corporation so that it's corporate dollars.
Yes.
Exactly. So, and the beauty is, especially with your whole life, is it might have some cash value in it. And it might have some features that allow you to add extra money into it so that you can oversize it. So there's additional deposit options or side accounts. There's a whole bunch of terms for these, and it gets very complicated. So I don't want to worry about it too much here. But if you think of investing, we all want to use a TFSA or an RSP or something that is tax deferred. Well, this is a TFSA for a company. It allows that company that maybe you only need $500,000 of insurance, but you have extra money that you want to grow.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm going to buy a policy for $500,000 and I'm going to add additional deposit options so that there's going to be a cash value in there.
Yeah.
Similar to your whole life policy, you have the ability to borrow from that. So if you've got money sitting in the company that is just earning tax, we can build you one of these that allows you to have the policy, but still the company still has access to it if they need that cash for something. If you want to go out and buy a building or you want to do something, you can borrow against your own policy. Yep.
So just to add on what Chris is saying, we've seen like chiropractic people, like those who practice that, they have to replace their equipment every 3, 4, 5 years. So they finance those equipment. This can be a good strategy because when you finance things, you pay people interest. But this one is like a line of credit for your company. You can actually leverage it to do what you need to do. If you have let's say you have a law firm or you have a physiotherapy, you want to replace things, it can be a very good source of line of credit. And you don't have to show your credit score to leverage it because it's your contract.
Yeah, because it's a cash account and the banks see it as an absolute asset. So it is something that just as if you were to have a bank account with money in it or another building that has a certain asset value to it.
If I want to go get a mortgage, I say, hey, my whole life insurance right now has 300,000.
Exactly.
And they would consider.
Yep. Because
they never ask about it. It's the first time I hear, and I do so many mortgages.
And that's the issue, is that not a lot of banks ask. Whereas if they said, well, how many RSPs do you have? Well, I have 200,000 over here. What other bank accounts do I have? 200,000. Okay. You have 400,000 worth of assets. They don't ask saying, well, how much whole life insurance do you have? Or how much universal life? Oh, well, I have this and it has $600,000 in it. Perfect. We can use that as collateral. that's how they see it, is literally it's collateral. It's a full on asset class.
What's the difference between whole life and universal life?
Great question. Very long-winded one. So I'm going to give you the quickest one I can, because I know we're starting to run out of time. Universal life is, if you want to call it, an investment account, just like if you're going to a stockbroker. So you've got the cost of insurance and the pot of money that is left over. That money that you've got over here, you have to decide how to invest it. So you can be super conservative or you can be super aggressive. It's going to perform just like you would an RSP account or anything like that, any kind of investment. So it's going to have a lot of fluctuations. Whole life, we're turning over the whole responsibility to the insurance company. That pocket of money is based on the asset of the insurance company. So they use that money for all their investing. So we find that is conservative, but still has very good returns. So as opposed to picking your investment and trying to track it and look after it year after year after year, whole life consistently pays all the time. So the average return right now is probably about 6.25 on whole life. So where are you going to get that year after year after year in true investments? Yes, if you want to invest and you're going to go in the stock market, you might get 12% and then 3% and then 15% and 8%. Whole life is much more conservative. The other thing is, from an asset standpoint, because banks know that the insurance companies always perform well, they will use up to 90 to 100% of your value as your asset. If you go to the bank and you say, I have $100,000 in insurance policy, they're going to say, what type of policy? If it's universal life, they're going to say, okay, we'll credit you for about 60% of that because it can fluctuate. We'll give you 60% of that as your asset. If it's a whole life, they'll do 90 or 100 because they look at it as more secure.
And 0 on term life.
Exactly, because those have no cash value. Yep.
Is there a cap to the additional amounts you can pay on the insurance for the cash value?
Yes, there's a rule. We get really, really technical then. It's called the MTAR rule. There's a link between the amount of insurance you can have and the amount of cash. So the bigger policy, the more cash you can have. So we want to make sure, and each company uses a little bit of a different formula. So it is important for Esther and I, when we run something like that for you, based on your age, based on how much you want, what is it you want to do, we can play around with it to try and get that cash value as best you can. So, and that will obviously make sure that you have the largest amount of cash. Some people will say, I don't worry about the cash as much. I want the life insurance policy to be as big as possible. So again, we can play around with it to make sure that it fits whatever you need. Yep.
So with the universal life, do they then open an investing account for you to manage?
Yes.
The piece for yourself.
Yep. Yep. It's,
you can buy whatever, segregated funds. Stocks.
yeah, it does have its limits because it has to be invested within the insurance product. So typically what you'll see is the investments are like a segregated fund. So what you'll see is you'll have about 50 choices. It's not as open as full stock picking. So it'll have some limitations.
So I just want to add one more thing.
Yep.
For people who are non-insurable, right? Because we get those. Business people have a lot of things running around. There's too much stress, health issues. Just remember that if you have business partners, you can insure them. On an individual level, you can insure your children as much plans as you want, and you can still use the same strategy in those plans as well. So if you're feeling that you're not healthy and you have a business partner, don't worry about it. We can still do it that way. So you're not stuck,
Right.
But you can do children's insurance in the corporate stuff like that.
You can to an extent if they're seen as being.
Like I insured my kid. Some people think it's really bad idea, but this is to prevent if he gets sick on the way of being adult,
Right.
then he's insurable and he has the money. It's not
Exactly.
for benefiting on his death.
Yep.
And so that wouldn't be,
You can if
From the
they're
other
seen as a director within your corporation. So if your child is 9, you can't insure them as if they're an owner. If the child is old enough,
yeah.
you can see them as a director or an owner once they're of age, like 18.
Okay, so
Then
that's
you can.
much
So
better.
children, as in adult children, we can do that. So just to sort of finish up on how that whole cash value works, there is what's called the IFA approach. So it's funding the insurance through immediate financing arrangement. And this is basically what you're doing is you're buying an insurance policy, you're taking it to the bank and you're getting a loan for that, and you're getting the money back so that you can invest that in the business. So it's effectively saying, I need this insurance. I want this insurance. I'm going to get the insurance, but I need to figure out how to pay for it because I only have this much money. So how do I use that much money for both? So if you have 500,000, great. Let's peel off 200,000 and use that towards your insurance. But now because the cash value in that can be almost 200,000, we can go to the bank and say, hey, we've got this policy. And if it's a whole life, we can do quite a bit. And now they say, okay, we're going to lend you back that 200,000. So the corporation now can reuse that money to go pay for whatever they need. So if you want to look at it as this is one of the most effective ways for business to do both. They can have the insurance, but they don't lose access to that money. So some people will just leave the money in the policy and 3 years later they go, you know what? I need to buy a building. I've got this asset here that's in the company. It's now worth 500,000. You go to the bank. Okay, I've got this 500,000. They go, great. That's a perfect asset. Here's 500,000. And we're just going to charge you interest on that. So, and the way that works is we take that life insurance policy, we give it collateral assignment to the bank, and they give you the loan. So, but if something happens, the life insurance policy, the bank actually has first rights to that. So they get paid out. That's why it's a completely secure loan for them. And then whatever is left goes to your family.
But let's say I bought the building, I took some money, bought the building. They want to secure it on the building for the difference or?
Usually for the difference. Yeah. So.
But if I just want for no reason, I just want to take the money, I need a loan, I want 300,000 and my policy is 300,000, can I go and say, here's, that's the only thing. Basically what I'm trying to say that the insurance will be the only collateral. Would they be comfortable doing that?
They will.
It can be both collateral or policy loan,
Right.
depending on what kind of plan you have. If it's just a small amount, you can do policy loan and you don't have to go to underwriting.
What it comes down to is, what do you want to use it for? If you're going to use it to reinvest in the business,
What do I want to travel? I don't want to do it.
that see, and this is
I'm a different as a farmer.
no, and this is a great question because you absolutely can do that. The difference is it's not seen as non-taxable now, because when we're doing this way, the business is being charged interest on that loan. So the interest is actually an expense to the business because they're reusing it for the business expenses. So you get to write off that interest. If you're pulling it out because you just want to use that money personally, it's now just you pay the interest. So either way, you can absolutely do it.
The bank will give me the money to secure it against that.
Exactly.
They don't ask for purpose, let's say.
Right. It's just your accountant wants to know so that they know how to write it through.
So do you or Esther have somebody on the banking side that understands this? And no, I'm not going in to teach somebody.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
why we got these programs because all companies have that department, right? So I know Manulife has a Manulife bank. Those people who attended our first event, it's easier. So when we are doing underwriting, and Chris can speak with that to that. they do both financial underwriting and health. So it's easier for when you do that. But any bank can still take that
Yeah.
if it's properly designed. We have to ensure that the advisor understands that it's highly funded cash value and it's not a regular traditional holder.
Yeah.
Because if it's a regular one, it may
So
not serve the
question.
purpose.
So you have the operating business, which has a holding company attached to it.
Yep.
Operating business takes this policy, applies for a loan, let's say it's 100,000, takes it, can it funnel it, the 100,000 into the holding company, which then wants to buy ETFs or stocks?
Yes.
or whatever it is?
Actually, what we recommend is that the holding company is the one that actually has the policy and then bills the operating company for the policy. The reason for that is because your business, you might end up selling it, but you don't want to sell the business and it has the policy and then you lose the policy. So if you have the policy up in your holdco, the opco can be sold and you still have the policy.
Okay, so because the collateral is being assigned to the bank, they then know if you're making up your premium payments, like if there's a letter going out, it's gonna be sent to the bank.
Right. Yeah. Because it's collateral assignment, it has that full built in. Yep. Great questions. Great questions.
Where do they register them with the personal security, property registry, or like how do you?
The interest rates being charged
No,
right.
not the rest, how do they, like, let's say, like, you know, when we buy a car, it's registered and then personal security.
Right.
Property registered. What, with this, how they protect themselves that you didn't sell it something or like? How
Because it's collateral assignment, the moment that that's collateral assignment, you can't do anything with that policy without the bank knowing. So you don't pay your premiums, they're going to get a letter. You try and collapse the policy, or you try and change, if it's a UL, you try and change the investments, the bank's going to know. So there's a lot of mechanisms in place to protect the bank, and that's why they like it that way. And they see it as such a secure asset because it's controlled. It's all built in.
Does the bank expect interest-only payments, or do you have to pay principal as well, even though the collateral will pay back the principal upon death?
It depends on how you set it up. Typically, we set these up interest only. And we can actually set them up where it's no interest paid. We can set it up where the interest accrues within the loan.
So just capitalize the interest.
Exactly. So you borrow out that $600,000, there's nothing paid. They just rack up that because they know that it's going to be repaid someday. So
Do they still look at debt servicing to see if we can debt service that loan?
yes,
Is the business making up to debt service the loan, even though it's a fully protected?
exactly. What they do is they'll the debt servicing is based on like Esther said, there is a financial underwriting. They want to know that you can look after it even if the interest rates go up to 12%. So they want to do some background on there to make sure that there's enough cash built in.
And that's why we mentioned in the first place, if you're doing a universal life, because it's not stretching, the bank can only give you 60% loan on that. It can be 90%.
So ideally, whole life.
Yep.
Ideally, if you want to get maximum.
Secure. That's how they look at it,
Yeah.
because they pay dividends. But you can run the program in whichever policy that suits your need, because not everybody fits in whole life or universal life. It depends with your circumstances and that.
One more last question, sorry.
No, someone's got to ask them. Go for it.
No, I'm just thinking like I deal with a lot of immigrants. Do they need to have a status here? What status before people can get like, I don't know, what insurance is like, or like.
There, once you're a Canadian citizen, there are no limits. Well, I shouldn't say that.
Okay, visitor, a visitor, can a visitor get, I never thought about it, can a visitor get life insurance?
Yes. There's student limitations. There's newer immigrants to Canada limitations. So each insurance company will set a limit of how much insurance they'll give. Based on whether you're a permanent resident or you're a visitor, you can get levels of insurance. It's just not. Usually it's about $500,000 is the max.
Okay, if you visitor, you're insured and then you go back home.
It's a policy bought in Canada. It's It's
The premiums are big.
yep. As long as you make the payments, yeah. It would just be like me if I've always been in Canada, but if I decide to take off to Italy one day, that not saying that I'm doing it tomorrow, but maybe that if I do that, I can keep any insurance that I have. It's not based on you being here. It's based on when you bought it.
Yeah, when you bought it, where you signed it.
Yep.
I just never addressed that in my house. So.
Yep.
But it's good for newcomers. I have so many newcomers. They should.
Yeah.
And I know that some of them go back home.
Yep.
And yeah.
Yep.
I think that's-
So we can talk about that
Yeah.
and the services you can give to your immigration clients.
Yeah.
Anybody else who has a question?
Yes, sir.
For the whole life policy.
Mhm.
How soon and how much can somebody take a loan against the policy, like a policy loan? How soon can you do it, and up to how much or the percentage of the death benefit?
It's not based on the death benefit. It's based on what the cash value of the policy. So depending on the cash value of the policy is when you can take the money out. Manulife is one of the ones that's set up the most unique. You can take a significant amount, like it's almost 80% of what you deposit in the first 5 days. So if you set up a policy and you say, okay, I want to have $100,000 a year into the policy, you dump in $100,000. If you left it for 2 years or 3 years, there's going to be 300,000 plus at the third year. So you can borrow the full 300. So that's the ideal situation if you let it percolate a little bit. But if you set it up where I'm going to put in 100,000, part of it goes towards the cost of insurance. Part of it is the cash value. So usually that's about 80% in the first year. So you can borrow that full 80% within 5 days of that first deposit. So there's a lot of flexibility with it.
And a policy loan, like let's say if I have a cash value of let's say 100,000, but I would like to have a policy loan of 300,000. That would work for the whole life.
The bank will, because you can only borrow what's actually there,
Yeah.
but the bank can use that as collateral.
Oh, yeah.
And they will say, okay, so just like any other loan, if you have fully secured, we'll give you an interest rate of, in these cases, it's usually about 7%. So we'll give you that full loan for 7%. For anything above that, if it's not fully secured, they're going to go through your credit score and everything else, and it might be 9% because that's not a fully secured. They're going to tie it to how much money do you actually have. So, yep, good question though.
Thank you.
Yeah, is there a maximum number of times a year you can pull out the funds?
No, there's not. No, there's not. We don't recommend it to be used as an ATM. And the main reason, it's not because you can't, it's because it doesn't work that way. Usually a withdrawal will take, I always tell people, give it 2 weeks, because it's not like going to your bank teller. It's paperwork that you're submitting to an insurance company. They have to put it through their banking system, and they have to pay you that extra amount. So it's going to be more difficult than having a secure line of credit. What I suggest is, if someone was doing that, I would suggest do the loan and then put it into something like a line of credit or something like that, so that you've got that, which is available at any time. So you can use the two products together, so that it's much more convenient for you. Because myself, when I need money, it's not in 2 weeks. I want to buy a car, or I want to buy an apartment, or I want to buy something. 2 weeks sometimes just takes too long. So I always try and make it planned as best as possible.
And if you're using Manulife, they have Manulife Bank, and then they have secure line of credit inbuilt. Everything is inbuilt there, so it makes work easier if you happen to qualify for that. So things are streamlined.
Yeah.
to make you what you
Would you suggest, Esther, if someone has a, let's say, a whole life through Money Life, to also open a bank account in Money Life? That way you're building kind of.
Yes,
With
you
every Money
Manulife
Life
has a
bank,
bank.
you're
Yeah.
building kind of that client also relationship with them. Would that a better?
Yeah, they open checking account, savings account, tax-free account, like it's a regular bank. We have Manulife Bank. And if you want to open Manulife Bank, we will open for you Manulife.
The nice thing is that because they're technically seen as very separate companies.
Yes.
So I see what you mean. Like, are you building a relationship? You're not.
Oh, you're not. Okay.
You're not really, because they're two separate entities,
Okay.
but they do talk to each other much better than if you had RBC
Okay.
and Manulife Insurance.
I hear you.
So I
That
find it works better,
yeah, that
but
was-
there's no relationship. I know what you mean there. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, I definitely went over time, so I appreciate your,
Yeah, thank you.
thank you. I really appreciate your time. You guys were a great crowd, and you suffered through me for an hour and a half. That
And we get,
right? Right?
we suffer and heal at the same time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, so thank you so very much. I know there's so much information, but it's good information.
Okay, that's
It's good information, and all of you are entrepreneurs, business people. As I said, make sure you leverage each other's services. We all need each other. We all need each other's services. If you want to buy a car, my brother Philip is there. He's a dealership, right? So you can talk to him about cars, right? Those people who are wanting to be represented out professionally, we have IT people here, we have podcast people here, we have copywriters here, we have catering services here if you're having an event, right? Dennis is here, a mortgage broker, and Liz is there, a realtor, and my sister Liz is here, is a lawyer, right? She's more specialized with new immigration. Take her contact. Please, when those people think you have answers to everything, this is how you distribute yourself out. You say, okay, Dennis, someone is asking you, do you know any immigration lawyer? Or give her the number, because she's right here. That's what this event is all about. And again, if we can scan this code and give us a feedback, you can make it anonymous, a genuine feedback on how we did today and how you like us to improve next time, or what you want us to listen to present next time. We'll be more than happy to implement what you tell us. And then you have these sheets on your table. If you can please fill for us this sheet, it just needs your name, your email, and phone number. We will greatly appreciate that, because we'll do a follow-up, and you can check which areas you want us to have more conversation. If you need anything, this is where we operate. You'll find me and Chris here, and we can help you in whichever way we can help. And it's you guys who give us those contacts that when people are asking, we just say, you know what, you want a nursing agency who sends you somewhere? I know Gatos is here, right? Triple P is here. They send people out, right? You are in post-construction, you want professional cleaning services, Simba is right there. That's how we work together. And my sister Lee is here. We don't compete, we collaborate, right? So she's coming from Great Way, but she's a good sister. So she came to support my event, and that's what we are all here about. There's no competition. You can collaborate. There's so many areas that we can work together as a family, right? And Yusuf is here. He will be doing a presentation in December, because the year is closing, and you business people, or us, all of us, need to understand how we are going to be closing the year. We need to understand which areas we need to fix before you take those papers to accountant. Some of us are very bad with bookkeeping and all that stuff. Some of us are looking for RRSP loan last minute, and then we bring some confusion in the accountant office. I'm going to be inviting him with other specialists to talk to us about taxes and RRSPs and how you can maximize your charity donations before the year ends, so that it can benefit you when you file your taxes. So stay tuned for that. We will be announcing the date, and you can attend that virtually if you like. Thank you so much. God bless you. And thank you so much to Manulife, who sponsored the whole event. And as you go out, spread the word, help other business knows there's this solution. They're not alone. And together we will work a successful business journey. Thank you. God bless you.
Thank you so much.
do I get to do my own feedback on myself?
Yes.
It's gonna be.
It's gonna be